Okay, well, let me welcome everyone to this podcast. And we have a great and interesting guest today, people. We have Stacey Schack, who is our Learning and Development Manager, and she has been with us here at Long Beach for over 5 years. She's responsible for staff recognition programs and training and development for staff, managers, and administrators. She also provides team dynamics and communication workshops for individual departments. So if you need those, please reach out. Stacey came to us from the private sector with an extensive and diverse background. She's a nationally recognized leader in training, sales, and marketing in Fortune 500 companies. And from that experience, she developed really a keen understanding of the importance of effective communication when it comes to office environments. So really, we're very lucky to have Stacey with us, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy day, Stacey, for answering a few questions.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So many of you have probably seen some of the resources and thought about the importance of staff development on campus. And of course, now that most of us are working from home, we'd love to sort of have Stacey, you share your guidance, advice, and tips for navigating our new normal. So let's start off with a question. How has training changed since COVID-19 impacted the campus in March?
It really impacted us greatly, just as it has for students and faculty. So at that time, I was managing several series of workshops, all in a cohort model. So back in March, we were going gangbusters, really. And each of those series was expected to run through May or June, depending upon which cohort it was. And so, of course, we put everything to an abrupt halt. Initially, we sent communications to folks that we were going to be postponing until we returned to campus. And we knew at that time, everyone was pivoting, right? So everyone was learning how to work from home, and staff were focused on assisting students, assisting other staff, assisting faculty. So we didn't want to disrupt the other work that people were doing at that time. We knew that everyone's focus was really getting adjusted and doing that pivot and to getting other things accomplished to support the organization. So again, we put everything on hold. And at the time, we didn't really expect that our work from home situation would continue as long as it has.
Sure.
And so once we recognized that it was to persist, that's when we really initiated the work of developing plans to convert all of those programs that we had ongoing to virtual ones.
Wow. So, I mean, that must have been an incredibly difficult change that you had to do, as you say, like all of us, in a matter of days, almost weeks. What other changes have you managed to introduce over the last 6 months? Must have been a lot.
Yeah, so we were needing to modify workshops that were typically 3 hours in length. But again, we had 4 different cohorts going on. So all of those things were different.
Sure.
So some things were subject matter experts from within HR that were leading workshops. Others I did. Sometimes we had collaboration efforts with the Chancellor's Office for a pilot program. So all of those different cohorts needed to be adjusted. So moving from 3 hours in person to most likely, in most cases, about 90-minute sessions,
Right.
and adjusting the application activities so that whatever we were doing to apply the learning in the instructor-led environment, we then needed to modify it, obviously, for this virtual setting as well. So we also purchased some e-learning software so that I can develop asynchronous modules to augment the synchronous learning. So just like the faculty have been doing, it's really trying to adjust to have both synchronous learning as well as asynchronous learning, and to modify all of that content. So we've had to prioritize which ones we're doing when, and so it's been a slow process, I think, for some of it, but we have reinitiated a couple of the programs already, with more to follow as we're able to get more going.
Well, I can only imagine how much work and effort went into that, but sort of as a follow-up question, how many of those changes and new ways of doing things do you think will remain after we go back to whatever normal is?
I think that they will continue. I think that one of the things that we have learned is that, and actually in some cases we were wanting to do both a hybrid model of some of this training anyway. So we've been wanting to do some e-learning opportunities to augment the synchronous work. And so this has kind of kickstarted that activity. So that's good. So I think that that will continue, that we'll be able to provide some pre-learning information, do an instructor-led course virtually, and then do some post-learning assessment as well as application activities that can also be done in an asynchronous way. So I think that those will continue, and I think that there's a lot of proven reasons to do them in the first place. So again, it's just kickstarted our need to do this and do it in a way that made sense during the pandemic.
So I suppose it's a real great example of making lemonade out of lemons, right?
Right,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. And so, I mean, give us an example. I know when I look, I'm almost overwhelmed by the wealth and richness of material that's available, but what tools and resources are currently on campus that you would point out as being useful for our employees?
Sure. So in addition to the cohort models of instructor-led workshops that we have, there are a number of things that everyone can really do to upgrade their abilities or technical skills or power skills, so to speak, using resources right at your fingertips. So we have CSU training. Some people think of it as a compliance area of further learning, but it really has a lot of other e-learning courses and digital books within the catalog. So that's available. And then LinkedIn Learning as well has over 14,000 courses. And what I really love about LinkedIn Learning is that they're adding content weekly. They also include bite-sized learning for just-in-time sort of training that you might want. There's downloadable exercise files to reinforce the retention. There's even assessments to measure the learning impact that you've had. So all of those are currently available just by utilizing the search functions within each application once you've clicked on them through the chiclets.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we're all focused on, I guess, is keeping our skills fresh and up to date. And how would you recommend we do that?
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of understanding what one's own skill set is, and also know what the organization's objectives are and what your own objectives are, and determine whether you have any skill gaps. So if there are any gaps, you'll obviously want to be able to capitalize upon what you already have and then increase your capacity for other things. So you can do that via those tools with LinkedIn Learning and CSU Training. And I think that one of the great things that we can also do is then to share that knowledge that we've learned with somebody else, because that's also then increasing the knowledge of perhaps somebody else within your department. So I think that there are innovative ways of being able to apply the learning that you had and then share it with the other folks within your area as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I mean, I guess it's somewhat more difficult to share things just because most people are at home now. I know I've been at home. I don't think I've been into campus for over a month now. What can I do as a manager or a supervisor to help employees who want to stay connected and want to share things that they've learned but are doing it from home?
Sure, absolutely. So this is kind of up my alley. I was always a remote employee before I started working at Cal State Long Beach. So I led sales teams virtually, led other virtual teams. So my whole career was actually spent being, I guess you could say, disconnected because I was not actually in a regular office setting. So when this hit, it was natural for me to be able to share some of those experiences with others on how to stay connected. So back in April, I led a webinar for managers on exactly that, managing virtual teams. And it highlighted the importance of staying connected. So I shared tips with managers on that topic and also gave them virtual tips to also share with their teams. And that too had a section on connecting with their colleagues. So we still have those resources on MyBeach. They were originally on our website, and now we've converted that content over to MyBeach. Because I do think that one of the greatest challenges, since we're remote, is obviously the communication piece, because you don't have the face-to-face daily exchanges or interactions. You don't have the water cooler. So you've got to be intentional about making that extra effort to communicate effectively with your teams and sort of foster that collaborative atmosphere. So some of the examples of being able to do that even virtually as a leader is to engage with your team via either Zoom or Microsoft Teams and have folks have the opportunity to share that way. So they can share what they've learned from one of the CSU training or CSU Learn, or perhaps a book that they were interested in reading that applies to something that you'd like them to do for work. You can also just sort of create fun things on Microsoft Teams. So if you're not set up on that already, I encourage departments to utilize it, because you can use it for your day-to-day updates, but you can also use it for fun activities, having themes for the week, scavenger hunts, honestly, just engaging in different ways. So it's not all about work. It can be fun things too. And that's really what helps us to stay connected and collaborate with one another.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've really enjoyed, say, with my team is that we have a book group. And we get together not very often, but occasionally to discuss a book that we've read.
Yes.
And so that's also a nice way to share something.
Absolutely.
So you've sort of been very explicit about the campus resources that are available to help us during this time. Is there anything that I sort of haven't asked about, or that you want to emphasize, or just make people aware of what we have available?
Yeah, I think that those are the greatest resources that we have currently. As we continue to roll out some additional cohorts moving forward, we generally will promote that information and have folks be able to sign up for additional workshops. I do have some campus partners that we're hoping to have some additional resources for us in the coming months also. So look for those as well. But we'll certainly be promoting them on My Beach via learning and development, as well as through your provost message, as well as through news and notes. So we'll get the information that way also.
Okay, great. So keep watching and keep looking is what you're telling us. That's great.
Absolutely.
And I think we can't really end off without saying that how incredibly grateful we are to all our staff members for really stepping up and doing a most amazing job in very difficult circumstances. Is there some way to recognize people or nominate someone for an award, or just remind people about the ways that we can say thank you?
Absolutely. So on our campus, we have the Best of the Beach program, and it's recognizing stateside employees whose service in whatever way. It can just be their professionalism, whatever their performance is, some specific thing that they've done, or their leadership, something that's really exemplifying the beach's mission, the values, our strategic priorities, the shift during this pandemic, all of those things that we've really had to do to step up to make things happen for students, again, and staff and faculty during this time. So that's the regular way of doing recognition. So we encourage nominations. Everyone that's nominated is recognized as Best of the Beach. So it's really an easy way for folks to take advantage of that. It's just a simple online form, and they can just say thank you and acknowledge what it is that somebody has done that they would like to recognize. So just last year, we had 300 or so Best of the Beach nominations. And so it's really a robust program, and we encourage folks to continue to utilize that.
That's fantastic. So Best of the Beach, and keep telling us who you are. That's
Absolutely.
great. Well, terrific. Thank you so much, Stacey, and thank you for your expertise. And again, thank you for pivoting in such a rapid time to take into account our new reality. And I didn't realize that you were actually a remote expert. And so kind of, you never know what's going to come in useful when you take a job. So how terrific.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciated the opportunity.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thanks everyone for listening. And remember, we thank you very much for your service. And there's all kinds of ways that we can fill in the gaps, which we all have, and learn new things and build up our strengths. And don't forget to say thanks to the people around you. So thanks, and go Beach.